Hello, I'm Andrea Hoppel, relationship coach. I help committed couples create satisfying relationships. And this class is the first of 3 classes on communication. This class is about clarifying your message. Now, before we get started today, I just need to share part of my contract that I have with all people that I coach. And so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm going to read it out loud to you. So let's see how that happens. Okay. So here we go. So I'll just read this out loud. So you, as the clients, have the key role in the client-coach relationship. For maximum results, you must have a willingness to do the work. This means being open to make changes in your behaviors and perceptions. The coaching process is about taking action. As your coach, I will create and sustain a safe haven for you to explore, make mistakes, discuss new ideas, evaluate past or current challenges, express fears and concerns, and ultimately be yourself without fear of judgment. Together, we will develop a strategy to help you achieve your goals. So, about what coaching is and what coaching isn't, be aware that the coaching relationship is in no way to be construed as psychological counseling or any type of therapy. In the event that you feel a need for professional counseling or therapy, that is your responsibility to seek a licensed professional. Coaching results are not guaranteed, and you are entering into coaching with the understanding that you are responsible for creating your own results. I have your express permission to provide your contact information to the International Coach Federation for the purposes of verifying my coaching hours only. Your signature below verifies you have read and understand all of the content on the other 6 pages of my contract. So I just wanted to share that with you. As a professional ICF certified coach, I do practice confidentiality. So in our live Google Hangouts, as soon as they are over, they will be made the highest level of privacy, which is a private video. And in the event that I ever need to use that content that you're involved in, then I will ask for your express written permission. And oops, I'm going to stop the screen share here. Those are my notes. And so because this is a class and not an individual private coaching session, there are some differences. The main one is that I will be sharing my own personal experience in some things that have happened to me. Now, in a coaching session, a private coaching session, I would never do that because a coaching session is for and about you. So my personal experience does not enter into a private coaching session. So in this class, I hope that it will allow you to think of things and talk through things, and then when we do have a one-on-one session, then just know that it is always for and about you. So as we go through this class, it'll kind of be a mixture of the recorded sessions and the live sessions. Okay, so this class is part 1 of a 3-session class, and this is on clarifying your message. And the next 2 will be communicate in a way that your partner understands, and the 3rd is check that the message received is the same as the message sent. So let's take a moment right now to set an intention for this class. I'm going to ask you to write down your intention. I also have an intention for this class as the leader, and my intention is to mindfully explore strategies that make communication easier and more enjoyable, that lead to greater connection in couples. So take a moment right now, pause the video, and write down your intention for this class. Great, we're back and you have an intention. So I have a comic for you. I like to make comics. It's something I've always enjoyed. And here I go, sharing my screen with this comic. Hang on just a second here, and this is all going to make sense. Okay. There we go. I hope you can see that. I'll just fill out the whole screen. Okay. So, by the way, this is based on something that has happened with my own husband. I actually drew this to represent how we look. You can see do you like my husband's beard? He's a tall bearded man. So what's happening in this comic is, notice what the woman is thinking. Oh, and as a disclaimer, I should say, whenever I draw these comics, I pick one to represent one part and one to represent the other part. This is in no way a commentary on the styles of communication between men and women. I am not assigning any roles to this type of thing. I have played both roles of this situation in many different areas, both in my marriage, in business, and friendships. So I've been on both sides of this, and I just drew it this way because I am going to tell a story in just a few minutes where this happened. So in general, here's what's going on. The woman is thinking something which is not spoken. And obviously the message is not making any sense, and there's confusion. And so what is really happening, this information, this C, I've chosen to make it a C for context. This is the context for the entire message that is not spoken, and the context will make everything else make sense. But currently, the context or structure that would make everything else make sense remains inside the head. Now that may feel like some different things. Okay, I'm going to take the comic down and go back to talk about this a little bit more. Okay, so let's see. Now, it may feel like I know exactly what I want to say, and I'm afraid to say it directly. Okay, so if you're the person with that thought inside your head and you're not sharing the context, you may be feeling like that. Or you may be feeling, I'm having feelings that I don't completely understand myself. I'm just going to open up the conversation and see where it goes. You may be feeling that way. Or you may be making an assumption, my partner already understands this context, so I don't need to explain that out loud. Okay? Have you ever had any of this happen to you? You're talking and talking and the context is just not there. So if your partner is missing that context, nothing makes sense. So what do we want? We want to understand our own message before trying to communicate it to our partner. So both how I feel and what I'm thinking, and what I want the other person to know. What do I want the other person to walk away with after having this conversation I'm about to have? Okay, now I have two stories. One is to laugh at, and the other is actually a success story. So the first one happened several years ago, many years ago, so we can laugh at it now, but trust me, at the beginning, this was no laughing matter. This was a very serious conversation. Now, I hope I can just tell it in a straightforward way. So this is something that happened with my husband and me. And what was going on is we were about to leave town, and on the way, we were going to stop and see my sister. Now, for reasons I'm not going to go into, I had some of my sister's meat, and it happened to be at my husband's mother's house. We had gone in together on getting some local beef. So she had asked me to bring some, and my husband asked me, can I do anything for you to help us get out of town faster? And I said, you know, yeah, you could. You could go to your mom's freezer and put some meat for my sister into this cooler. I said, you know, don't get all the same kinds of meat, but just, you know, try to get various cuts so that it's not all the same. And he said, now we'd had some communication difficulties prior to this. So he said, you're not making any sense. I want you to write down exactly what you want me to get out of my mom's freezer. I said, okay, I'll write it down. And I made a list, and I was like, okay, so get about 7 pounds of hamburger, get some steaks. And I made this whole list for him to take over to his mom's house. Now, as it turned out, we ended up not doing that. We ended up stopping by his mom's house together before we left. And he had the list, and we went down to the freezer and we started putting meat into the cooler. And I looked in the cooler and I thought, she could use a lot more than this. So I just started pulling more things into the cooler to take along. And he stopped me and he said, Andrea, you're going way off the list. Well, I had only written the list for his sake because he didn't feel sure about what to do here. And so I just said, look, my sister's freezer is empty. The goal is to fill it up with this meat, but not all the same kinds of meat. And he just looked at me and he said, why didn't you say that at the beginning? So going back to my comic, you can see that I had not provided him with the context for the situation. He, for whatever reason, did not have the context that I assumed that he had. So going back to that thought inside of my head, I knew what the goal was, but I had not communicated it to him, at least not clearly. I hadn't said, my sister's freezer is empty. We need to fill it up with meat. Get different kinds of meat. Even though I knew that, I didn't think I needed to say it out loud. So it was no laughing matter. It was not funny. I can laugh about it now, and he probably could too. Although I don't really want to find out. In any case, I hope that you can look back on some things that you've had happen to you and laugh about them now. My learning from this was to approach a conversation, to think all the way through that conversation to the very end, to exactly what the goal is, and then state that first. And I never would have come to that conclusion without having this happen. So even though it was painful at the time, I'm glad that that happened to teach me to approach my conversations with my husband a different way. So now it's your turn. Think of a time when the context was missing from a conversation you had. What happened? How long did it take before understanding occurred? And I want you to pause the video right now to remember and discuss this if you wish. Okay, we are back, and you have presumably taken some time to remember and discuss a conversation with the context missing, and hopefully that was something that you could maybe think about in a different way, have a little different perspective on it, and hopefully it was okay enough to laugh about it. Now, if it just happened, it may take some time for you to be able to laugh about it, and you may never want to talk about it again, but this is, it's a good time when you're not in a conflict to sit down and think, what happened here? What is going on? Because communication is tough. It seems like it should be easy. It's not always so. So I told you I had two stories. I had a story to laugh about that happened a long time ago. Now my success story is something that just happened recently. So the background is, we're a homeschooling family, and my husband and I are different people. I am more of a literature-based person, and he's more of a science and engineer type person. So what we tend to focus on as far as education is different, and it is really a perfect balance, a perfect match, because he's there to keep me accountable. Now, I didn't always feel it that way though, and in the years of homeschooling that we have done, it has often followed a pattern in our conversation where he asks about what we're doing, and then I somehow feel that he's challenging me and that I am lacking in that area, and I take it as an attack, which then I respond to in defense mode, and it turns into an argument, and nobody wins. Nobody wins. So this time around, we have a son going into, he's involved in high school right now, and we have made the decision to go through high school as homeschoolers, and he has taken classes at a local high school as well. Now, I came up with a proposal that involves, it involves changing some things that we've done, and it was different, and so I really wanted to have agreement on this. So what I did, I typed out a huge document of about 7 pages, and I did not want to start a conversation without all this research and all my thoughts in order. I wanted to have everything laid out. The message I wanted to convey was, I have thought this through, I've done research, and I've addressed concerns that I know you have, and I have a plan. So I really did not want to have, the pattern of communication that we had had in the past. So that's what I did. I typed up this 7-page document, and I even sent it out to my friends for review. And I handed a printed out version of it to my husband when I was ready, and this was like a month in preparation. And he read it, and we were able to talk about it. The conversation just took 5 minutes after he was done reading it. And then my homeschool husband / admin was able to accept my proposal involving our oldest child. So that is an example of a successful communication in which I really, really thought through my message in advance, and I made sure I had provided all the context I possibly could think of for that communication to take place. So it's your turn to take a moment to celebrate a recent communication success. Pause the video and talk about something that went right recently in your relationship. Okay, we are back. I feel that it's really important to celebrate things that go right when they go right. Give each other a high five, whatever is a celebration for you. Take that time to celebrate when something goes right. Otherwise, relationships just feel like a bunch of work trying to pick apart things that go wrong. So my goal in my relationship is to keep things going upbeat. So we are coming to the end of this class, and I have, I hesitate to call it homework, but that's really what it is. But don't worry, it's not to write things down. Until we meet again, let's focus on clarifying our own message. And that involves a kind of a conversation with yourself, okay? So 2 questions to ask yourself before approaching your partner to share a message, with the goal of clarifying your own thoughts first. This is the first question. How do I feel or think about this? Second question, what do I need my partner to understand as a result of this conversation? So if you can keep those 2 questions in your mind until we meet again and practice them before you approach your partner in a conversation, that's what the homework is for this time. So let's find out how practicing this changes your communication patterns. I will look forward to hearing your stories. This has been Clarifying Your Message. I will see you again soon. I'm Andrea Hoppel, relationship coach, helping committed couples create satisfying relationships.